So you want to go in a straight line in your canoe. You take a forward stroke and you go any direction but straight. Unfortunately for the canoeist, there is no one simple stroke to make you go straight. This video is designed for the volunteer leader who needs to get his group of paddlers going in a straight line quickly. First, some terminology to help orient yourself. The grip and the position of the hand on the grip are important. When doing a forward stroke, the power face of the blade is the side of the blade going through the water. The back face is the back side of the blade. The shaft and throat are obvious. The bow is the front of the canoe and the stern is the rear of the canoe. The gunwale is the upper edge of the side of the canoe. Symmetrical canoes paddle equally well in both directions. A typical tandem setup is shown. There are three phases of a stroke: the catch or entry phase, the power or propulsion phase, and the recovery phase. If you take a forward stroke in a canoe, three things happen. First, the canoe moves forward, which is what you want the canoe to do. Second, the canoe turns to the left. This is because the stroke is taken off the center line of the canoe. Third, the canoe will side slip or move laterally. The side slip is usually minor when paddling forward and can be ignored. To go forward, simple strokes are combined to make the canoe go straight by compensating for the unwanted effects of the stroke used. Three strokes are discussed. Enter the forward pry. It combines the forward stroke and pry off the stern to make the canoe go in a straight line. The pry pushes the stern to the left and turns the bow to the right. Concurrently, the pry has a secondary effect and moves the canoe laterally. The canoe side slips. Side slipping is usually minor and can be compensated for by slightly overcorrecting when turning the bow to the right. Take another stroke. This time, the pry at the end of the stroke slows the motion of the stern to the right. With the bow pointing to the right, you are ready to repeat the process of going in what is essentially a straight line. When doing the pry, the thumb in the grip hand is pointing up towards the sky and the back face of the paddle is facing away from the canoe. The pry should be quick and decisive. You should feel the stern moving laterally. There are several variations of the J stroke. As the stroke passes the hips, the paddler begins to rotate the paddle with the power face of the blade pointing outward. The forward stroke component propels the canoe forward and to the left. Pushing the stern to the left, the prying action is a continuous extension of the forward stroke, where the paddler slides the shaft of the paddle 6 to 8 inches along the gunwale as the pry is initiated. The strength of the prying action can vary with need. When performing the prying action, the thumb in the grip hand is pointing down towards the water, with the power face of the blade facing away from the canoe. The prying action is a smooth continuation of the forward stroke, and it is permissible to slide the shaft along the gunwale, enhancing the prying action. Using a rudder. At the end of the forward stroke, the paddle is placed as a rudder against the gunwale with the blade pointing outward at an angle. The forward stroke turns the canoe toward the offside, and the rudder corrects. Inefficient, ruddering doesn't propel the canoe forward, it creates drag, and it can slow the canoe to a stop, rendering the rudder ineffective. Which stroke should I use? Most paddlers will use a J stroke and forward pry interchangeably, depending on the amount of correction needed. Because it is inefficient, ruddering is generally avoided. It takes several strokes working together to make the canoe go straight. Let's add some additional concepts and techniques. The draw hook or Duffick stroke. For solo paddlers, a draw hook or Duffick can pull the bow towards the paddle to help counteract the turning effect of the forward stroke or side slipping. The draw hooks or transitions into the forward stroke component of the J stroke or forward pry. The draw hook is not necessary when paddling tandem and is a lead-in to the turning circle. The C stroke. Conceptually, the C stroke evolves into a variation of the draw hook or Duffick strokes. For the most efficient paddling stroke, the paddle shaft is normally vertical in the water. With the C stroke, the shaft creates an inverted sweep, which can add a subtle turning correction without using the pry. The turning circle. Imagine a wheel turned on its side with its axle in the center of the canoe. A stroke applied along the turning circle will turn the canoe on its axis. The further away from the center axis, the greater the turning effect. As the canoe moves forward, the turning circle and its center axis moves forward also. This explains why the correction strokes of the bow paddler are less effective, while those of the stern paddler are more effective in helping to make the canoe go straight. Side slipping. Apply a pry at the center of the canoe where the axis of the turning circle is located. Will move the canoe laterally or side slip. As the pry moves towards the stern, side slipping decreases and the turning effect of the pry increases. Torso rotation. In order to maximize the catch phase of the stroke, the paddler rotates his or her torso, which helps extends the lower arm further forward. Torso rotation utilizes the large muscles of the back. During the propulsion phase, the shaft of the paddle is kept vertical in the water, which assists in maximizing the forward effect of the stroke. Torso rotation is important if you want to be a really good paddler, but it is of lesser importance if you are a volunteer leader preparing your group for a canoe camping trip. Paddling tandem. Many paddlers will be paddling tandem. Let's pull all the concepts together. Consider the turning circle to help explain why some strokes work and others don't. The bow paddler uses a forward stroke with no correction. For the bow paddler, the J stroke and forward pry are ineffective. The correction phase on each stroke moves the canoe laterally. The stern paddler can use the forward pry, J stroke, or C stroke. For the stern paddler, the draw hook is ineffective. The draw occurs close to midship, moving the canoe laterally. For the stern paddler, the corrective pry of the J stroke or the forward pry is much more effective, and it is why the stern paddler steers the canoe when going forward. One last thought. If the stern person overcorrects, use a draw stroke and pull the stern toward the paddle. Conceptually, the draw stroke is nothing more than a forward stroke at an angle to the paddler. There you have it. How do you make the canoe go straight? Unfortunately, it takes several strokes complementing each other to make the canoe go straight. Once you understand this, it is simply a matter of making the proper correction. Paddling tandem requires teamwork between the bow and stern paddler also.